It's hard to stay positive with everything going on in the world right now. Political complications, toxic relationships, and persistent challenges that keep knocking you down. What's even worse is that so many people nowadays have negative mindsets and believe that there's nothing they can do to dig themselves out of complicated situations. However, performing acts of kindness can always make someone's day a little brighter, whether it's a small compliment or a huge donation. Hello, my name is Miley Gallegos, and I'm going to be discussing and reflecting on my experience from performing an act of kindness over the period of a month. I found myself struggling with this project because I don't usually go out of my way to do something kind for people other than family members, but I wanted to give myself a little challenge with this project. The first thing I wanted to do was something that I'd seen trending on TikTok a while ago, which was paying for the person's order behind me. On day one, I went to Starbucks to order myself a drink, and I decided to pay for the person behind me. Their order cost around $20, which as a student without a job, I thought was a bit much, but then I changed my mindset. It'll make their day. Money is materialistic, and performing an act of kindness will make myself and them feel good. Since they were behind me, I never got the opportunity to know whether or not they were thankful, but it made me feel good to do something for a change, for someone. For the next few days, I gave girls around my school a few compliments on their appearance because I know how long it takes to get ready in the morning for school. Many of them reacted kindly, either with a smile or thank you. Two of the girls gave me rude looks and walked away, which made me feel a little awkward at first. Although, it made me realize that not everyone will accept the kindness you present them with, and most of the time it is due to internal conflict with themselves. People tend to follow the social comparison theory, the idea that people learn about themselves, their actions, and abilities by comparing themselves to others. They usually do this without being fully aware of it. Most of the time, depending on who people compare themselves to, social comparison will diminish self-esteem and confidence in a person, which is why it's important to present them with a little reminder that they are seen and that they are just as good as everyone else. On day 15, I was the recipient of a kind act my mom performed for me. She knows my love language is receiving gifts, so she bought me a few clothing items from Aeropostale, which is my favorite store. It made me happy to know that she was thinking of me, so I gave her a hug to show my appreciation. Being on the receiving end made me realize that kind acts happen more often than I realized, but I've just come to expect them, especially from my parents. It may be common knowledge to repay someone back with gratitude if they go out of their way to do something for you. But is it really kind if you expect something in return? People in a depressive state may be appreciative of the kind acts people pay them with, but they might not be in the mood to put on their mask just to cough up an entire act of gratitude. This is an example of cognitive dissonance. Since their belief, being appreciative, conflicts with their attitude, which could come off as rude or distant. After day 20, I began to observe social environments more to see if kindness was present more than I realized. I wasn't surprised when I saw people disregard others that clearly needed help. On day 23, I saw an elderly woman drop the item she had in her hands at Walmart, and no one went to assist her. Then, on day 29, I saw someone at the mall drop a hanger on accident, but they never even picked it up. I didn't want to believe that our world had become so disconnected and allergic to kindness, to the point where people wouldn't even fix their own mistakes to make the lives of others easier. However, on day 22, I observed a freshman at my high school sitting alone during lunch, and I saw another girl ask her to go join the group. Maybe she wanted to gain a new friend, or she wanted to act out of the kindness of her heart, but either way, she definitely made that girl's day with one act of kindness. I don't believe true altruism exists. Some people may do something kind for someone and then keep reminding that individual of that kindness they showed them, that way they can get something out of them. Others may just do it to make themselves feel good. And most of the population perform acts of kindness to receive the thing that will help themselves to thrive: money. Lawyers, teachers, doctors, therapists, police officers, etc. All of these professions are dedicated to helping people, but none of them do so without pay. No matter what road people follow, they always expect something in return. Unfortunately, this is the realistic answer that no one wants to hear. In all honesty, I wouldn't have performed any of the acts that I did within the last 30 days if I didn't have to for this assignment. Completion completion of this assignment was my incentive to perform, observe, and reciprocate kind acts. However, over the duration of this assignment, I felt happier helping people even with the tiniest inconveniences, or even giving them a small compliment that made their day. It made me wonder why society had become so hateful and conceited. People would rather go out of their way to insult others than compliment them nowadays. People with growth mindsets, the belief that human qualities, personality, and abilities can evolve, tend to show more kindness than those with fixed mindsets. Growth-minded people believe that they can develop the ability to better understand others, which is their way of improving their ability to be empathetic. It also boosts their willingness to go out of their way to do something kind for others, without nothing in return. Or so it seems. In return, they evolve. Altruism does exist, but true altruism can't exist until people learn that not every act of kindness they perform will benefit themselves. Of the 30 days that I performed kind acts during, I think the most impactful one for both myself and for the recipient was day 18. On this day, I helped an elderly woman in my neighborhood set up and host a garage sale. She needed money, so she decided to sell some furniture, jewelry, and other trinkets that she had lying around. I approached her as she was putting up flyers, and I told her I'd be glad to hang them up for her. She told me yes, and I asked her if there was anything else I could do to help her, to which she told me I could co-host it with her. When I was helping her, I felt a rise in empathy and patience in myself. Since she was old, we moved at a slower pace than what most people would prefer, and I had to listen carefully so I could consider her needs. It definitely shifted my perspective, which made me grateful for my own abilities, the time I have, and my support system. As for her, she expressed her gratitude to me and even told me about her life. She lived alone, meaning she didn't interact with others a lot, so she was happy to be valued and cared for. It also allowed her financial relief that she was hoping to accomplish while hosting the garage sale. While doing this assignment, there were a few challenges that came up other than the rude glances that I received giving compliments. There were a few days where I had zero motivation to perform even the tiniest acts of kindness towards another person. It was already hard for me because I am a shy person, but on some days it felt more like something I had to check off rather than a genuine act of kindness. Other days, I had to encourage myself to go out of my comfort zone to help or compliment people. I didn't want my gestures to come off as weird or rude. I think the most challenging problem was trying to decode the nonverbal cues that were expressed towards me. Sometimes people looked upset, but they may have just been tired. Either way, it's hard to interpret the neutral facial reactions they had. I tend to overthink a lot, so whenever people got quiet or changed their tone, I second-guessed myself and whether I actually did that specific individual a favor. Despite these problems, I still felt good after completing the challenge because I felt like I made an emotional impact on others, even if it wasn't that huge. Who knows, one act of kindness could be the reason someone decides to live another day. I think that it's important for the audience to understand the psychological advantages and disadvantages of acting out of kindness. One significant advantage for the person performing the act may include a boost in mood. With every kind act, I believe that my brain had released dopamine, which is a chemical that rewards the brain. Second of all, I felt less stressed than I had before the challenge, which is odd because I thought it would have been the opposite. It felt as though I had been given a mental reset. I had lower stress levels and anxiety, and my focus was shifted away from my own problems and allowed me to focus on other people instead. Lastly, I felt like my social connection had significantly strengthened. It was as though my kind acts were able to build trust and relationships faster than any I had ever built before. I felt as though I had gained a sense of belonging as well as satisfied that I was able to make a stranger's day. I think it's important to discuss the ripple effect, which is when one act often inspires more acts. In this case, my acts of kindness would inspire more among my community. Something that I noticed happening a lot during this experiment was that people would misinterpret my kindness. Some people may respond differently due to past experiences, trust levels, insecurities, and even cultural norms. Most of them may appear suspicious, usually as a result of not being used to receiving help or because they are cautious. Some signs I noticed among some of these individuals included short responses, refusing help, and even looking uncomfortable. I realized that not everyone saw kindness as kindness, but some individuals chose to see it as a question mark. Thank you for listening to my analysis of my 30-day kindness project.